Hello and welcome to the Business Interview Spotlight
Thank
Series.
you.
I am your host, Barrett McDonald, and today I'm joined by James Wylde of Greenlight Analytical, President and CEO. James, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to start things off with a little bit about who you are and what it is you do?
Absolutely. Thank you, Barrett. Delighted to be here. Um, yeah, my name is James Wald. I'm President and CEO of Greenlight Analytical. We're a startup company here in HRM. In brief, we develop a line of tools for the agriculture industry, primarily for indoor agriculture, high density vertical farming, cannabis producers, uh, typically those that are focused on high value, high revenue, high quality crops. Our tools let them measure their crops in real time so that they can make adjustments to the growing environment to guarantee that when they harvest the crops, they meet the requirements of their customers. Um,
Absolutely.
we've been here in HRM for a few years now. We've grown to about 4 people directly. Indirectly, we're about 10 people. Most of us are here in the area, but we do have a few remote experts that we work with as well. So I'm delighted to be here. Happy to share any thoughts on what we've learned over the journey of getting to this point.
You bet. So, James, what are some of the common misconceptions you've came across in running a business, and how do you combat them?
Well, it's the biggest thing I've learned is that it's a lot harder than people think. There's it's not difficult to conceptually, it's not difficult to develop a product, develop a business around it, get it to market. It's almost like a machine. You just have to turn the cranks. Um, but there's a lot more work, a lot more effort, a lot more roadblocks get put up in the way than you would normally expect when you start out. Um, I think a common misconception that a lot of founders have is that they've got this great idea, the world is going to love it, and 2 or 3 years from now, I'm going to be sitting on a beach in Jamaica. Um, there's a lot of challenges that take place in between those two things, but at the same time, I've also learned that it's incredibly rewarding. You're watching something that was literally an idea on a napkin over a beer at a pub one day, suddenly is turning into something that people are clamoring for, and being able to see people use your ideas to help out their own business or their own life is incredibly rewarding. So I think the mix of those two things is certainly something that was I think a common misconception that a lot of founders do have getting into a new business. Um, the 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 I don't want to say challenges, that's not the right word. Um, but the the milestones around fundraising are typically something that is I think is a surprise to a lot of founders. The idea that people. I remember when we started out, we were looking for millions of dollars out the gate, thinking, "Oh, this is such a great idea. People are going to fund it." But you find a lot of what I've learned along the way is that you start to have to show, okay, you need a little bit of funding to do this. You show that, that grows to this, that grows to that, and so on.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so there's a lot more of a stepwise growth, that's a common misconception, or at least one that I had, that I've hopefully now overcome.
You bet. So, James, what would you attribute your growth to?
Certainly a lot of hard work from a very good team. Definitely. The if you take the typical check boxes of things like, do you have a product? Does the market need it? Will people pay for it? Does it provide a value? We take all that as read and assume that's a yes, because if any of those are no, you don't have anything to begin with.
Right.
But beyond that, really, it's a growth is dependent upon having a good cohesive team of a lot of smart people that have complementary but overlapping skill sets. Um, no, no one person can do everything. There's things I'm good at, there's things I'm not good at. My colleague Darren, he complements me in a lot of very good ways. Same with our technical people. They bring some of the skills that maybe neither I have or Darren have, but at the same time, we have to complement them in different areas. So having a very good, hardworking, complementary team is critical to growth, and it's definitely what's helped fuel our efforts. The other fortunate aspect of starting a business here in North America is the ecosystem. We've got a very good ecosystem here for creating and growing a business. There's a tremendous amount of support from the local community, and one of our mentors at one point, through one of the Nova Scotia government agencies, said, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes an ecosystem to raise a company, um,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
founders need that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about the team and stuff that you're surrounded by, what have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began in business?
Um, I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that when you start a business, it's fairly informal. Of course, you're typically a few friends talking over a table. So a lot of the formalities of running a business is something that um, should be put in place much sooner than people think. You think things like, oh, I'll get a board of directors at some point, and we'll put a policy manual together at some point, and we'll come up with a contractor agreement at some point or whatever. That it's very easy to think, well, right now I'm just focused on the technology. It's certainly something that I've learned is that it's critical to not only build a technology, but to build a business in parallel with the
Right.
technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So what qualities do you look for when you're seeking out those staff members and employees to surround yourself by, and how do you foster that positive work environment to keep them around?
Well, we certainly we certainly take a work hard but have fun approach. We try to make what we're doing enjoyable. There's it's very common for us to have lunches together. The environment in the office is fairly casual. We're working very hard, but at the same time, people are people are uh, quite humorous, and there's nothing to keep telling jokes and things like that. So it's important that everybody gets along. Um, and the type of things I look for in people are I generally I have found over the last 20 plus years that um, that certain skills can be learned.
Right. Okay.
You can learn how to use a particular piece of CAD software, or you can learn to use a certain accounting package, or these are things that can learn. It's more important when you're looking for people to work with, that they have that positive attitude of I'm just going to take ownership of this. I don't know how to use this widget, but I'm going to learn it. But that positive attitude of just jumping in, taking ownership, and running with something, I think is critical for the people that I look for. Definitely enthusiasm. Um, it's a we're like most startups, we're not a typical 9 to 5 shop. Sometimes we'll put in 14, 16 hour days, but then it's okay to say, let's just take the afternoon off. So people, kind of have that enthusiasm for jumping in and just work at it until it's done, um,
Right.
is critical. Um, Learning how to solve an equation, you can teach that.
Right, absolutely. So you just touched on some pretty long days there. So how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Um, the it's definitely changed, since the pandemic. Whether it's for better or worse, I haven't decided yet. But we used to be able to walk away from the office and leave it there. And of course, since the pandemic, that has changed. Um, most organizations, us included, use have adopted, even though it's informal, we've adopted a hybrid model. But how do you balance those long days with a personal life as well? Part of it, of course, is just having good people around you at home as well. That's as critical in your personal life as it is in your
Right.
in your work life. And then learning to say things like, I am going to take Saturdays off. Just telling yourself that, or whatever the answer is. Some
Right.
people might be, I'm going to shut my computer off at 7 o'clock, regardless of what's going on. Just accepting that you're gonna do those things, is a way I have found to to balance it. And then, at the same time, most of what I do, and I hope my folks would say this as well, is enjoyable. So, um, in a lot of ways, when you're not when you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work,
Right.
in a sense, right? So what I tend to do is the things that I really I really like to do. Like, even though I'm kind of more on the business management side of it right now. I'm technology by trade. So if I have to work up some calculations, or build a little circuit board up or something like that, I do that at home, because then that's fun. And so, even though it's
Right.
helping to move things forward, I view that as as fun. So it kind of associates my home time uh, as 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 the more enjoyable time, even though I'm technically still working.
That makes total sense. So thinking back to when you got going and the journey you've been on, if you had to start all over again in business from square one, what would you do differently the next time around?
Um, I think a lot of what I've gained, along, or what I've learned, I guess, along the way. I would have. I was very fortunate from the beginning. I had some very good advisors, and they've evolved over the years as the business has evolved. But I would have, I would have focused, a little more on, I think, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, making sure that I was building the business in parallel with the technology and the product.
Right. Okay.
I certainly would have done that. What else would I have done differently? Um, in a lot of ways, it's a difficult question to answer, because looking back, I could say I would have done this, and this differently, but I didn't know that at the time. Um, so,
Yeah, like what about onboarding people faster? Would you have hired employees faster and surrounded
yes,
yourself with people earlier?
probably, yeah. I probably would have taken a lot more risks that way. The when you're, of course, when in the early days, especially when when you're working on a shoestring budget and you're kind of funding things with your own credit card and stuff like that, it's very easy to say, well, I'm not going to hire this person until I know I can pay them for a year. And I probably would have taken more risks that way of if I need the skill set, bring it on board, because the faster we show the next milestone, the faster we're going to get that next tranche. And we'll be able to continue to pay them. So I probably would have brought people on earlier, and taken more risks that way. It's lesson learned. And I think the other thing I would have done differently is probably engaged with more organizations. Like we're working with one of the branch, or about to be working with one of the branches at NRC right now for some of our data processing and algorithm development. I would have engaged with those high-powered organizations a lot earlier.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've got things pretty squared away to the best of your ability to this point. So
Trying.
as we're wrapping things up here, any last piece of advice for someone who's watching the series at home and thinking about getting started on their entrepreneurial journey?
Do it at least once in your life.
Okay.
If I kind of remove Greenlight from the equation and just kind of answer that same question from James, this is a leap I should have done 20 years ago. So if you're thinking about starting a business, that's probably means you're ready to.
Absolutely. Some pretty sound advice, James. So thank you so much for joining me today, and everyone watching this series at home. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Thank you. Great to be here.